Hey there, my fellow designers and creators, hope you're all doing well. This is Chetan here from Design Palette, and I am back again today with a very exciting tutorial. We're going to be learning how to recreate my 2018 YouTube channel intro. A lot of you have requested on how to do it, and since it's the end of 2018 and I have a new intro coming up in 2019, which you'll probably see in this video, I thought making a tutorial on the 2018 intro. So without any further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so before we get started, just a couple of things that I want to mention is number one, that I recently released my new course on Udemy, which is designing and animating icons on Illustrator and After Effects, and the course costs just $20, but if you use the coupon code that's down below in the description, you can get 50% off, so you can get the course for just $10, which is around 600 bucks in India. So if you guys decided to enroll to the course, please do make sure to give the course a 5-star rating and give a positive review. I really appreciate it, and that's a good way of saying that you guys like my courses. Now let's get into the intro. Now the intro is actually created by my good friend Callum over here, and he made this intro for me at the beginning of, at the end of 2017. So now let's get into the actual tutorial. Now the first thing is you need to use Illustrator. Now Illustrator is not a must. If you have a simple logo, then you might use it directly in After Effects, but for those of you who have a little complex of a logo, you might want to use Illustrator. And obviously using Illustrator is a good thing because Illustrator and After Effects go really well hand in hand, so that's something that you might want to consider. Now the first thing you need to do is you need to split your logo into different layers. As you can see, I have 4 different layers. Right, so this is going to be the first layer, which is the entire logo, but we can actually, just have this center part, but I'm just going to leave it like that. The second one is this part. Then the third one is this part, and the fourth one is this part. All right. So let's actually put them in order. So 1, 2, and 3, and this is the fourth one, right? So you need to break this up into multiple different pieces and make sure that they're on different layers. Now let me quickly show you how to do a part of it, and then you could use the same technique for the rest. So for example, I have all this hidden and I have just this one layer. What I can do is, I can go right click and then I can choose ungroup first. So I want, to have only this part. I'm going to go ahead and, just press P on my keyboard to get the pen tool, which is you can click on this button to get the pen tool, and I'm going to click on the minus sign to get the negative, the cursor. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start clicking on these anchor points, and then I'm going to start cutting them off like so. All right, oops, and oops. So there we go. So we have this one section that we wanted. So if we wanted to create only this part of the logo, what we would want to do is we want to select this, press P on your keyboard, and just click to get rid of all these sections. And we should be having this. So basically that's how you split the layers, and once you select it, you can press Ctrl X, and you can click on a new layer, and then just press Ctrl F to paste it in place, and that goes onto a new layer, as you can see right here. So let me just Ctrl Z everything, so we have everything back to its original situation. And so once you do this, you have to save the Illustrator file. Just go to File and choose Save. It's going to save it as an Illustrator file, and now we can get into After Effects. So here we are in After Effects, and this is the old project files. Now I might be referring a little bit here and there to get the actual settings and stuff, so please forgive me for that. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on this section, or you can right click and then choose Import. And you want to choose the logo file, as you can see. So I'm going to click on import, and what that's going to do is that's going to give me this dialog box which says import kind. You want to choose composition, and the footage dimension is going to be layer size. You could even choose document size, but it really doesn't matter. And then you go ahead and click on OK. So as you can see, this is what you get, and we have all the layers. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, pretty good. So we're just going to close this up. Now, we want to start off by creating our first composition, which is the color composition. So to create a new composition, all you have to do is click on this button. You can change the composition to color. The width is 1920 by 1080. Frame rates, you can set that to 30 frames, and the duration, you could probably set that to 10 frames. And you just go ahead and click on OK. And you're gonna have a blank canvas like this, a blank composition like this. You can click on this button to show transparency if you don't see that. Anyway, so yeah. And so I'm just going to close this composition. We're going to use this composition that we have. Now there are two layers over here, and we're going to focus on the first layer. To create a new layer, you can just go right click and then choose a new solid, which is a new layer in After Effects. You click on new solid, and then you can choose whatever color you want. That's fine. Click on OK. So we have a white color solid, and I'm just going to go ahead and press enter on my keyboard. You need to make sure that you're in the timeline, and then press enter, and then we can call this BG. Now we're gonna go to the effects and presets, and if you don't find this tab, you can go to window and then choose effects and presets, and we're gonna type in something called as a ramp, which is gonna be a gradient ramp. So all you have to do is just select it and drag that onto this layer or here on the canvas, and it's gonna apply this black to white gradient. Now we're gonna copy the exact settings. So I'm gonna come over here. So this one is going to be a gray, so I'm going to copy this, which is CCC, and I'm going to come here to this BG and just paste this, and let's paste it again, CCC. Good. Now the second color is a pure white color, so we're going to leave the second color to be pure white. And the ramp scatter, as you can see over here, was 225. We could just we could set that to 200. It's just going to mix up the colors and blend them a little bit, but not much of an effect. All right, now the position is something we're going to change. So over here, as you can see, if I click on the ramp effect, you can see that this is over here and there's another one over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this BG. We're going to come here to the gradient ramp. We're going to click on the start ramp. All right. And then I'm going to come over here and then just click to place it. So right, so 0 and 540. And also, as you can see, the ramp is set to linear ramp. We want to make sure that it is a linear ramp. And the second one is going to be over here. All right, so we can set this to 960 and 540, which is the exact center. All right, so now these two look exactly the same, but we also have another ramp. So if I show this one, all right, and come over here, you can see that we have this ramp on the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and select this BG, the one, and I'm going to duplicate it by pressing Ctrl D on your keyboard. So we get BG2. I'm just going to, get rid of the 2. And this time I'm going to go and select the start of the ramp and move this over to almost the edge. So this is going to be 1920 by 540. All right, there we go. Now, the problem here is we want it to be gray, we want it to be white, and we want it to be gray. So since the white is on this side, what we're going to do is we're going to add in some mask. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this tool, which is the pen tool, and we're going to go ahead and come and draw some kind of a shape like so. All right, and we're going to close this up. Okay, so now what's happening is if I hide all the layers, all right, you can see that this mask is only making this part of the layer visible. If I turn on this, you can see this is what we have. So if I go and press M on my keyboard, we get the mask path. But if I press MM twice, we get more options. So I'm going to set the feather of this to 500. And as you can see what happens, it kind of, fades off the edge and, makes it look much nicer. So let's actually select this and you're going to move this over like so. Yeah, okay. And then we are going to go and turn on the one at the bottom. All right. Now everything looks so white. So the reason is we need to go and set this to inverted. And what that's going to do is going to make it gray, make it white, and then make it gray. So something like that. And we go ahead and actually delete these two layers. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to turn these original layers back on. So we have it. All right. So next, once we have this color composition, we need to put it into another composition called as arrow 1, which is going to be the first arrow that's going to get animated. So how do we do that? We just need to select this color and then drag that and put this into a new composition. And we can call this composition arrow 1 tutorial. And yeah, that should be pretty good. So I'm just going to close this color. So we have arrow 1 tutorial, which is this color. And as you can see, we can't see anything, to be honest. And that's because we have the wrong composition. So I'm just going to open this up. As you can see, we have nothing. So I'm going to open the original one. I'm going to copy these layers and I'm going to come over here. And this color is going to be renamed color tutorial. And we're going to go ahead and paste it over here. Right click, then just paste. All right. And then now we can see it in arrow 1 tutorial, and this is color tutorial. All right. So that was a bit confusing, but hope you guys got that right. So the next thing is we have the actual layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and let's actually open up the logo, and where's our first layer, which is this one. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to copy it by pressing Ctrl C, and I'm going to come back to let's close this color tutorial. We're going to work on only the arrow 1 tutorial, and then press Ctrl V to paste. And as you can see, it's going to come over here. So once we have this right over here, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this button which says toggle switches and mode until we can see this mode and this track matte feature option. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to alpha matte. And what that's going to do is that's going to apply this gradient that we created in the color tutorial composition onto this layer. So for example, if I go to the color tutorial composition and let's just get in this fill, and if I select fill and drop that on this background, and all right, as you can see, and we're going to put this on this as well, just for the sake of showing you guys. If I come over here, you can see this thing becomes red. That's because it's taking the color from this, because we have the track matte set to alpha. So if I go ahead and delete this fill, and if I come back over here, you can see only the red part over here. So basically we're just grabbing the colors from the other composition. Just a subtle effect. You don't have to have it. You can keep it white at itself, to reduce any confusion. Okay, so the next thing is to create the reveal. So we're going to go and select the arrow 1 tutorial, put that into a new composition, and we're going to call this arrow 1 reveal tutorial. All right, there we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in a little bit over here, and you can hold down the Alt or Option key and your scroll key on your mouse to scroll in and out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and make sure we are not selecting anything. You don't want to select anything on the canvas. Go ahead and click on the pen tool, and we're going to go ahead and create a shape. Now this shape needs to resemble the shape of the logo. So I'm going to click over here and make sure you give enough space. So try to be almost in the center, like so. And we could and I will just click over here, and then pretty good. All right, now I'm going to go to the fill section. Make sure you are choosing tool creates shape and not tool creates mask. You need to select this one, and then go to the fill, and you need to click on the text fill, and then you can click on none, choose OK. And now we're going to choose stroke, and we're going to set this to pure white, and I'm just going to go ahead and press press V to get the selection tool, and then we can just select this anchor point and then just move this up. But this needs to be thicker than the entire logo itself. So we're going to go and increase the stroke to 50. We need to set it up to be a bit even more. And also I think we need to, change this. So for now, let's set this to red so we can actually see. All right, there we go. And let's select this anchor point. All right, and then let's increase this up to something, until it kind of exceeds everything. All right, so as you can see over here, we can move this a little bit up. Okay, like so. And let's go ahead and set this to 95, so it covers the entire thing. Let's set this to half resolution, and that should be pretty good. So now this is covering the entire thing. Now here comes the fun part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and set the track matte of this to alpha matte. All right, so now it looks like nothing has happened, but I'm going to go to the shape layer. I'm going to click on this arrow mark, and I'm going to go to add, and I'm going to choose trim path. Now check it out. Now when I go to the end, you can see what's happening. All right, we are having some cool, transition effect. All right, that's pretty good. I'm going to click on the stopwatch to create a keyframe for the end. I'm going to come down 1 second. So you can hold on Shift and click on the page down button to move 10 frames. If you press without the shift, it moves only 1 frame. All right, so I'm on 1 second, and I'm gonna go and increase this until the entire animation is revealed, which is probably somewhere over here, I guess. So 96, let's actually set this to 100, doesn't matter. Okay, and now we can select these 2 keyframes, right click, keyframe assistant, and choose easy ease. You can use the shortcut F9, and then we're gonna come and just click on this button, which is the graph editor. We're gonna select this and then hold down shift so we can select one of the tangents and move them without shaking too much, and then move them in a bit slightly like so. All right, and now let's see how this looks. So yeah, something like that. So we have successfully completed the first part of our arrow reveal. Okay, so now once this transition part is done, what you want to do is you want to recreate this for all the 4 or 5 segments or segments you have. So for example, if I come to my main, I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 segments. So you need to make sure you have 4 different compositions. So this is my first, and if I go to my second, I have another set, which we will do all this right now. So you want to make sure that you have this arrow 1 reveal, arrow 2 reveal, arrow 3 reveal, and arrow 4 reveal for different parts of your logo. Something like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this arrow 1 reveal tutorial and put that into a new composition. And this is going to be, all right, so this is going to be arrow 1 final tutorial. All right, there we go. So now I'm going to actually come here to the original project part and see what we had done. So we have a shadow over here. So as you can see, this is 100% scale, and if I press S, you can see the scale is also 100%. But what has happened here is if I press P on my keyboard, you can see there's a position property, and if I press P again, there is a position property which we are going to add. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go and press toggle switches and modes until you get this option. You want to click on this which says 3D, and that's going to make it into a 3D layer. Now the reason you can't see anything is because we are at the beginning, so if you come forward, you can see the animation. Pretty good. So I'm going to call this, just leave it like so. I'm going to press P and make sure that the position is set to 0. I'm going to duplicate it, all right, by pressing Ctrl D, and at the bottom one, I'm going to call this arrow 1 tutorial _ shadow, all right. And as you can see, the position that was over here was 125, so I'm going to set this to 125. Now, as you can see, you could see a small, difference over here. If I go and add in a fill, you can see we see that red part. So, but we're going to make it look like a shadow much better. So I'm going to go and on the settings, you can see that we have a fill and we have a blur, which is a box blur. So the color is actually this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the color code, which is 1F2426. I'm going to copy this fill, or you can go and get the fill from here. And then I'm going to paste it on the shadow layer, delete this fill and add this one. Okay, and also we're going to add in a blur, so you can go and choose a box blur. So there are a lot of blurs. If you go and choose a blur, you can get a ton of blur, which is bilateral, camera blur, compound blur, radial blur, Gaussian blur, whatever you want. But I'm going to go and choose this fast box blur, and I'm going to put it on this. All right, there we go. You probably might not be able to see it as of now, but what we're going to do is if I press T, you can see the opacity was set to 25. So I'm going to press T and set the opacity to 25. Okay, good. Now if I hide this, you can see we hardly see anything. So if I go and go to the transparency, you can see the shadow over here. And if I put this on, you can see, there you go. So we have a slight shadow. If I set this to full, you can see we have the full logo and a slight shadow below, which looks really good. Okay, so the next thing to do is we're going to add in a camera. So I'm going to right click, new, and choose camera. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the preset to 50mm, which means the focal length is going to be 50mm. And you can make sure that everything is the default settings and click on OK. Now nothing has happened, but we're going to add in some 3D effect here. Now to fit the entire canvas to the screen, all you have to do is press Shift and the slash key, and that's going to fit it to the screen. A quick shortcut if you guys didn't know about that. So I'm going to come here to the first composition, and as you can see, we have some camera animation. As you can see, the logo comes in, and it kind of moves out. So we're going to create two null objects. All right, so the null is basically an invisible layer which has properties that you can use. So if I right click and then choose create null object, we have this null. Now you can choose to have two or one null object, but I think it's kind of easy to do it with one null object. So as you can see, the original project had two null objects. Now if I go to the camera and press P on my keyboard, you can see we have some settings. Let's see if the settings are the same. Right, there we go. So as you can see, the position is 0, 0 and minus 2666, and here it is this. So I'm going to set this position to 0 and this position also to 0, and we see that something weird happens. Now what you can actually do is press Ctrl Z, and let's go and choose the camera tool. All right, so we get the orbit camera tool. Click on it, and you can just click over here, and you could kind of choose how the camera should kind of look. So something like that. Okay, I think that's pretty good. And this is something where you can play around and do the fun stuff. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and select this parent link for the camera and choose it to null 10, and this is going to be the camera control. All right, camera control. And then I'm going to make this also a 3D layer. So what that means is if it's not a 3D layer and I press P and hold down Shift and press R for rotation, you see we can scale. You can change the settings only on one axis. But if you set this to 3D, you can have multiple axes that you can play around with and change. All right, so let's see how far the keyframes were. So over here, which was 2 seconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the beginning, and we're going to go and press P, and we're going to go ahead and actually move this over. You can actually grab the axis. You can hold down Shift, and if you move it, you can see that the entire composition is moving, and that's pretty good. So we can click on the position property, and we can go down to 2 seconds on the timeline, and now we can move this over to the other side. There we go. All right, let's actually zoom out. You can select the camera, and then we can actually move the axis like so. There we go. And now let's play this and see how this looks. I'm just gonna go and set set this to black so we can actually see it. Okay, so let's see how this looks. So yeah, so there's something that definitely you need a lot of tweaking for. So if I play this now, the animation is starting way too soon. So what we can do is we can actually select both of these layers, and we could probably make them begin from here. So when the camera comes in, and now they're being formed, like so. Let's play that again. Okay, now of course you can change the speed, so you can select these two, right click, keyframe assistant, choose easy ease, then you go to the graph editor, select one of this and hold down Shift, and give it this kind of a steep curve. And now let's see how this looks. Now let's take a look. All right, so that was like pretty fast. So what I can do is I can select these two and move them a little bit over to the beginning. Okay, now that seems to be super fast. So what I can do is I can, reduce this down a little bit more like so, and it should look pretty good now. Or let's actually go ahead and make this like full speed, and we could set this to 4 or probably 5 seconds and see how this looks. So we would probably have to move this entire part out like so. Yeah, and let's see, take a look. Yep, that looks pretty good. Now we could also the logo is not being formed, so we want to move this over to somewhere over here, so where we can see the logo being formed. All right. Yeah, it's just a little bit of settings that you have to tweak to get the right size, the right fit. You can also go ahead to the tutorial over here and into the layer, not actually into the layer reveal, press U on the shape layer, and you could play around with this as well. So probably you could go and set this to be a super steep curve. Now that look should match pretty well. So let's take a look. All right. Okay. Now, if you want, you can also add in some rotation. So over here, we are going to go press R and, choose the orientation. Let's actually bring this over to the beginning so we can see where this actually sits. We could add in some rotation like so. There you go. Let's set that to 10 degrees. Okay, and it goes, as you can see, like so. And at probably in the middle of 2.5 seconds, we could set that to 0. And over here, we could set that to -10. So and then you could press right click, keyframe assistant, and choose easy ease and give it some nice smoothing. So let's take a look. All right, so there you go. You have some nice turning and twisting and stuff. We could go ahead and select this. All right, so give it some kind of a nice steep. Let's take a look. All right, and you could definitely cut it off over here in the later part. So basically that's how you do the camera control for this. So this is going to be your arrow 1 final tutorial. You want to make arrow 2, arrow 3, arrow 4 final tutorial, and you should be ready to go. So on the main composition, the second one is again, so actually the first one went like that, and the second one goes like this. All you have to do is just change the rotation, and then the third one comes from the bottom to the top, and the fourth one comes in, zooms out. Now let me show you how it looks for the final one. As you can see here, I will show you this one, and I'll show you this linear wipe. It's a pretty simple effect. So go back to my final, and over here on the final logo reveal, I've added a linear wipe. So if I just show you this, as you can see, this one, there is a linear wipe transition. So you can go and choose effects and presets and choose linear wipe. Just put that transition on, and you can change the transition completion. As you can see, it automatically does it. You don't have to do any masking. You can change the angle and add in some feather. All right. I've also added an effect called CC light sweep. So what this exactly does is, if I show you the light sweep, all right, it doesn't show pretty much well on right, but actually, you could go ahead and delete it. And for the other one, which is the camera position, all I did was, all right, it's a simple zoom effect from the bottom, goes back to the center, all right, like so. And, it kind of zooms slowly into the back. You can extend this and, make it work the way you want. But yeah, now for this text, what I did was, as you can see, if I go to my word mark reveal and I go to my word mark, you can see I have all these letters. Now this was a separate Illustrator file, and all I did was I went ahead and keyframed the position property. If I press P, you can see the position property was keyframed for 1 second, and then I moved all of this by, I don't know, 2 frames, I guess. Yes, so I moved all these by 2 frames, 3 frames, I guess. Yeah, 3 frames. There you go, and then they just come like so, one by one. All right, it's pretty simple. Now I also added this second version, which was just let me show you a few frames later. As you can see, this starts a few frames later. This one has a red color fill. So all I was trying to achieve is when the text comes on, the shadow comes on first, and then the text comes on later. And blends really well, and then the text zooms out like so, which is pretty simple. All right, so let's see if there's anything else that we have to do. So we finished all this part, and yeah, just play around with the camera. You should be able to make it look pretty good. Now the last one was, I also added a glow on the last one. So this is a simple glow. You can go and choose glow, and you will have yourself stylized glow. Just add that on. Now the last one is the background itself. So all you have to do is press Ctrl Y to create a new solid, and I added a gradient ramp. Now the color I used was 380255, and the end color was set to black. All right, and the ramp scatter was set to 225. Now the position of the ramp is actually pretty far away. All right, so as you can see, there's one over here and there's another one over here. So if I bring this, it becomes too dark. So I have to move this back over here. And this is where, the color changes for the purple. So yeah. And that should be pretty much it. Now make sure you turn on motion blur for all of the compositions. So you want to click on this, which enables motion blur for all layers for which motion blur is set. So if you go into the first, you want to make sure that you have motion blur for all of these layers. If I go to the second one, you can see motion blur. We need to turn on motion blur for all this. Let's go to the third one and turn on motion blur, and the fourth one, final one, and turn on motion blur for all that. And on the main composition, you just want to turn this on, make sure it's blue, and you're ready to render. Now to render, you can go to composition, add to render queue, and here in lossless, you can set the format to QuickTime. If you want to export it as MP4, you would have to go and encode it in Adobe Media Encoder. Pretty simple stuff, and click on render. Right, so that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more amazing, awesome content, and I'll see you guys in my next video. So till then, take care and bye-bye.